The 5th episode of the 7th season revealed pretty much everything about Evil Morty, his background, his whereabouts, and I thought it would be nice to revisit his full timeline and sum up everything his character has offered to the story so far. In the episode Unmortricken, it was revealed that before he started his grand plan, he had a pretty normal life as a Morty, with classic adventures with his grandfather Rick Sanchez. We can see that their mission was to get some kind of crystals. The crystals look awfully similar to death crystals from the first episode of the 4th season. These crystals can be found on Forbodulon Prime. Someone who wields one is able to foresee their death in multiple possible future scenarios. We can see that Evil Morty is clearly wielding them, which means that he could see his death in multiple possible future scenarios. From the very next scene, we can see that he was already planning to betray his Rick, but these crystals could be the final nail for him to do that. He would be able to see how many times his Rick betrays him and how many times his Rick is the reason for his death. This might help him realize that no matter what he will do, Rick will always be Rick, and he will just be an asset to him. Unlike Morty Prime, he took a different approach after interacting with the crystals. Unlike Morty, who did everything to get the death he wanted, he tried to act on his own and destroy the one thing that was single-handedly ruining his life: his grandfather Rick Sanchez. Right before they could start an argument, Morty offers him a drink. Even though Rick is considered the smartest man, even he didn't find it extremely suspicious how out of nowhere his Morty started chilling. Instead of starting a heated argument with him about their adventure just like how he usually does, he tried to please him. This was due to 2 reasons. Rick doesn't really see Morty as a threat and greatly underestimated him, and second, alcohol really is his kryptonite. Just like all the other alcoholics, he cannot say no to that when he is offered a drink in that way. Morty used this to his advantage, and in the next scene we can see him designing his eye patch. Even to this day, we don't know how he got that eye patch in the first place, but that is a topic for another video. In the next scene, we see the real reason why he wanted his Rick to get drunk. It was to catch him off guard to finish his grandpa once and for all. We know why he hated his Rick. It was implied that he was more abusive and toxic than the normal one. But this makes you wonder how his Beth, Summer, and Jerry were that he basically just decided to dip away from all of them. And I think the answer to that question was in the very next scene. The reason why Evil Morty didn't really feel any remorse in leaving his whole family was that they definitely weren't his original Rick and family. In the next scene, we can see Evil Morty visiting the Morty Adoption Agency along with Rick, who was later known as Evil Rick. The reason why he went there was to delete the information about him after finishing Fat Rick and Garg Rick. Evil Morty being kidnapped by the Morty Agency and then being given away to other Ricks could explain why he never felt any kind of connection to his Rick, similar to Morty Prime and Rick C-137. He probably passed through enough Ricks to be even more tired of him than Morty Prime. Watching Ricks ruin his life over and over again could be the reason why he wanted to leave the central finite curve, and this might also explain how he got so smart in making the eye patch and such from watching all of these Ricks. After leaving the Morty Agency, he started doing his plan and started finishing Ricks one by one. From the 10th episode of the 1st season, we learned that he had murdered at least 27 Ricks. One of the first Ricks was from the singer Prince dimension. The name of that Rick was the scientist formerly known as Rick. This joke was also connected to Prince, since he was known as the artist formerly known as Prince. Another universe was the Sweater Universe. This universe could be connected to The Rock, Dwayne Johnson's turtleneck meme. It seems Morty uses the corpses of other Ricks to gain the intelligence and information from them. In one of these scenes, we see Evil Rick, his original modified Rick, attempting suicide, which means that even though he was fully controlled by Morty, he still had some kind of consciousness. But obviously, Evil Morty overpowered him via his eye patch. Then the scene shifts to a scene from the 10th episode of the 1st season when a group of Mortys attack Evil Rick. But it seems this is what Evil Rick wanted in the first place, finally dying so he would be free from Evil Morty's control. That's why he was so accepting of his end. These scenes are very closely tied to the 10th episode of the 1st season. Something very interesting happened in that episode that not a lot of people talk about. In that episode, Rick C-137 is accused of killing all those Ricks instead of Evil Morty. The main evidence of that was Rick's portal gun. He was seen visiting the places where murders took place. It was obvious that he was staged, and later it was revealed that his portal gun was really hacked, which makes you wonder how Evil Morty managed that. Rick is extremely sensitive to his portal gun. I am sure he would not simply leave it in a place where Evil Morty would be able to hack it. That could mean that Evil Morty and Rick C-137 had some kind of interaction between meeting each other in the Season 1 finale, which makes me wonder if either of them remember that interaction and if we'll ever learn about that meetup. Another interesting thing from that episode that not a lot of people talk about is that at the end of the episode, before the big reveal of Evil Morty being the true mastermind behind everything, we see Ricks who recognize the technology that Evil Morty was using. After rewatching that episode, I was wondering what happened to those Ricks. It seems for some time the Citadel was investigating with Evil Morty, which is the reason why he was trying to blend in with other Mortys. I think he went into hiding while the other Ricks were investigating and looking for cameras that caught what happened in other Ricks' homes. I bet by the time they figured out there was in fact a Morty involved, Evil Morty had long disappeared. There is also a possibility of him being active in killing the Ricks after them finding out about his doings, which would explain why the number of people working on the case got smaller. The episode also shows us that Evil Morty was not originally planning to take control of the Citadel. He just saw an opportunity and seized it. A year later, in the Ricklantis mix-up, now going by the alias Candidate Morty, he secretly develops an alter ego to become a presidential candidate in the election for the newly democratic Citadel of Ricks. His candidacy is considered a joke by the Ricks of the Citadel due to being a Morty who no one takes seriously, including his campaign manager Morty. But after making a rousing speech about the class divide between the various Ricks and Mortys on the Citadel during the debate, he quickly earned praise and support. Shortly after the speech, he promptly fires campaign manager Morty. Campaign manager Morty is depressed and drinking heavily in a bar when an investigator Rick gives him a file revealing candidate Morty's past as Eyepatch Morty and true nature as being the one to have been controlling Evil Rick. How did investigator Rick know about the true nature of Evil Morty? Were there also other Ricks who knew about it? I guess we will never know. Horrified at the truth, campaign manager Morty tries to assassinate Evil Morty to prevent him from winning the election and is quickly arrested. Unfortunately for him, Evil Morty survived the assassination attempt and won. Although campaign manager Morty tries to reveal candidate Morty's true identity as Evil Morty to the authorities, he is executed by being ejected into space with the file. The now President Morty meets with Rick leaders on a shadow council of Ricks, who tell him that they were the real power in the Citadel long before the Council of Ricks and that he'll have no real power. He asks for those who feel this way to raise their hands. He snaps his fingers and all of the Ricks with raised hands are swiftly executed. The remaining two instantly back down and cooperate. Evil Morty then sets his plans into motion by eliminating the old school that partnered Mortys with Ricks, creating new Citadel police rules that allowed a Rick police officer to go free after killing his Morty partner and turning himself into a dictator. He creates new banners and throws every Rick or Morty that opposed him out of the airlock. Evil Morty appears in Never Ricking Morty, where he is in an anthology created by Storylord. He is seen with his trademark eye patch along with the cyborg arm and a cape. He leads his army against Rick and Morty. In Rick Mirai Jack, Evil Morty invites Rick C-137 and Morty to have dinner with them. He asks Rick to tell him how to bring down the central finite curve, but Rick refuses. He implies to Morty that Rick C-137 helped create the Citadel, and says it's a shame that Rick won't help. Despite this, he could have what he needs anyway. Rick's brain was scanned during the appetizers. He had kept previous scans taken by Evil Rick in close Rick counters of the Rick kind. Just to make sure, he checks Rick's memories on the brain scanning device planted in the dining room. Morty apologizes to Rick for bringing him to the Citadel. Evil Morty expresses disdain for Morty's sellout nature, but says that it would be pointless to hate him for it. Mortys are bred by the Citadel for their forgiveness. The Citadel has become a self-perpetuating market for Mortys, with Citadel Ricks manipulating events to ensure Jerry's and Beth's end up together and creating endless Morty clones from their offspring. Rick tries to shoot Evil Morty, but the shot is blocked by a force shield. Evil Morty tells the guards to let Rick and Morty go. Rick opens a portal to leave, but after seeing Evil Morty's smug face, realizes that it's a trap. Evil Morty has hacked his portal gun again. After defeating the guards, Evil Morty tells Rick that he can't run from his past. Rick shoots at Evil Morty again, but the force shield is still up. Evil Morty asks Rick why he thought the shield would be down the second time. Rick says it's just him expressing disapproval at his dialogue. Rick C-137 and his Morty encounter Evil Morty again at the Citadel's dimensional drive as he is preparing to escape the central finite curve. Evil Morty explains to Morty that Ricks see themselves as the underdogs, and in this way justify all of their heinous actions to themselves. They built the central finite curve, a multi-dimensional wall that separates all the infinite universes where Rick isn't the smartest man alive from all the infinite universes where he is. Evil Morty says that what makes him evil is being sick of Rick and his toxic, immature, and sociopathic behavior. He professes in wanting to leave it all behind, and that any Morty who has ever been sick of Rick has also been Evil Morty. Essentially, he is destroying the central finite curve and the Citadel to free himself of Rick. Evil Morty activates his dimensional drive protocol, powering it with the blood of Operation Phoenix clones to create an opening in the central finite curve. The Citadel starts to break apart, and Evil Morty offers Morty a chance to escape with him. Rick tells Morty it's a better deal than staying, but Morty chooses to remain with Rick. It is soon revealed that Evil Morty anticipated this and revealed the only thing on the ship besides the seat is a toilet. As Rick and Morty flee the chamber together, Evil Morty gets into his small spaceship. He flies through the opening in the central finite curve and uses his own portal gun, one filled with a unique golden fluid. Evil Morty continues on adventures beyond the central finite curve, gathering resources that will allow him to live a peaceful life in his space mansion. Unfortunately, his peaceful existence is disturbed due to Rick and Morty messing with dimensions within the central finite curve in a bid to track down Rick Prime. Annoyed, Evil Morty confronts the two and gives Rick a tip to speed up the process, but is ultimately dragged into a Rick and Morty adventure when they are teleported into a prison set up by Rick Prime. Despite Morty's own objections, Evil Morty and Rick team up to survive the prison, using their combined knowledge and skill set to outsmart Rick Prime's traps and cooperatively hacking their portal guns to facilitate a joint escape. In the process, they learn that Rick Prime developed a weapon called the Omega device that is capable of killing people across infinity. After their escape, Rick runs off to get his revenge on Rick Prime. Evil Morty elects to follow, knowing the Omega device is too dangerous to allow to exist, and convinces Morty to join by advising him that Rick will not handle succeeding in his revenge well. They arrive at Rick Prime's lair, and Evil Morty teams up with the two to defeat Rick Prime. At one point, swapping clothes with Morty and feigning a reunion between Rick Prime and Morty, who is technically his real grandson, before using his resources to incapacitate Rick Prime. Dragging him into another room, he conducts a brain scan and downloads the schematics for the Omega device. Rick Prime, impressed by Evil Morty's intelligence, suggests that they could become partners like Batman and Robin. Evil Morty retorts he does not need a Robin before pulling Rick's body in, reviving him, and offering a chance to kill Rick Prime. After shutting down the Omega device, he comments on Rick's dissatisfaction at getting revenge before warning him and Morty not to bother him again by pointing out how he now has the power to kill Ricks across every dimension if he so chooses. When Morty points out he could just do it anyway, Evil Morty replies that actually using the Omega device would cause him more headaches when he just wants to be left alone. He begrudgingly admits, having gotten the chance to work with him, that Rick has proven himself different from other Ricks. He muses he could find that useful one day, though he reiterates his warning that they not come after him as he leaves. And this is the story of Evil Morty so far. The 5th season left a lot of people asking themselves, now what? It seems the story of Evil Morty is concluded, but I don't think so. As you can see, there are still a lot of unknown and mysterious things about Evil Morty, and I don't think that his role in the series has been finished yet, and I plan to do a video about it, so stay tuned for it. The biggest misconception people have about Mortys are that they are generally dumb, but I don't think so. In my opinion, they are just unmotivated and insecure. We see throughout the series that even our Morty is perfectly capable of understanding and operating Rick's tech, like he did with the enlarging ray and disarming the neutron bomb. We also see that our Morty is very good at reading and manipulating people, even more so than Rick, like in the Memory Parasites episode. So Evil Morty is not an exceptionally smart Morty, just one that reached his potential by having a strong motivation to not be a servant to Ricks and becoming confident, even cocky. At first he didn't have the tech genius of other Ricks, but by watching him create tech and using it in adventures, he was able to replicate it and use it against his Rick by exploring his weakness to alcohol. Evil Morty's biggest strength and advantage over other Ricks is his superior social and emotional intelligence that he used to manipulate and subdue the whole Citadel. His tech expertise at first was comparable to that of our Morty until he decided to do things on his own and increase it by downloading the brain of other Ricks. I guess that's all for today. What do you think about Evil Morty and his role in the series? What's the thing you like the most about him? Let me know in the comments, like this video, and subscribe to this channel for more. Lonnie Brooks out. Bye.